Attraction is often misunderstood as something driven by appearance, clever words, or dramatic gestures, but from a psychological perspective, what truly makes someone memorable is the emotional experience attached to an interaction. Human memory is deeply tied to emotion. When we look back on conversations or encounters, we rarely remember every word that was said. Instead, we remember the feeling we carried away from that moment. If an interaction leaves someone feeling valued, calm, energized, or understood, the brain tags that experience as significant. That emotional tagging is what keeps a person lingering in someone else's thoughts long after the moment has passed. The brain is constantly filtering information, deciding what is worth storing and what can be discarded. Emotional intensity acts like a spotlight in this filtering process. Experiences that trigger meaningful emotions are prioritized because, from an evolutionary standpoint, emotions signal importance. When you create a positive emotional environment in an interaction, you are essentially increasing the chances that the memory of you will be stored more vividly. This is why small, emotionally intelligent behaviors can be far more impactful than grand displays meant to impress. Flashy behavior often focuses on external performance. It can momentarily grab attention, but attention and emotional resonance are not the same thing. Attention is brief and easily replaced by the next distraction. Emotional resonance, on the other hand, creates depth. When someone feels genuinely comfortable and engaged around you, their nervous system registers a sense of safety and reward. Positive social interactions activate the brain's reward circuits, reinforcing the desire to revisit those feelings. As a result, the person associated with that emotional reward becomes more memorable. Another important aspect is that people are naturally drawn to those who regulate emotional energy well. If you are calm, attentive, and present, you help shape the emotional tone of the interaction. Emotions are contagious. Humans subconsciously mirror the emotional states of those around them. When you bring grounded, warm energy into a conversation, the other person often begins to feel the same way. Later, when they reflect on the interaction, they may not consciously analyze why it stood out, but they will remember that they felt good in your presence. Emotional memory also plays a role in anticipation. When someone consistently associates you with positive feelings, their brain starts predicting future interactions with you as rewarding. This anticipation strengthens the mental space you occupy. They may find themselves replaying conversations, wondering about your perspective, or looking forward to the next time you talk. None of this requires exaggerated effort. It grows from consistent emotional quality rather than dramatic attempts to stand out. It's also important to understand that authenticity amplifies emotional impact. People are highly sensitive to inconsistency between words and underlying intent. When behavior feels forced or performative, it creates subtle discomfort, which weakens emotional memory. In contrast, when your actions align with genuine interest and respect, the emotional signal is clear and coherent. That clarity makes the interaction easier for the brain to encode as a positive experience. In everyday life, this means focusing less on trying to impress and more on cultivating presence. Presence involves listening fully, responding thoughtfully, and noticing emotional cues. These behaviors communicate that the interaction matters. When someone feels that their thoughts and feelings are being received without judgment, they relax. That relaxation is emotionally significant. It creates a mental association between you and a sense of ease. Over time, repeated emotionally positive interactions build a strong memory network. Each experience reinforces the previous ones, making the overall impression more durable. This is why consistent emotional quality outweighs occasional spectacular gestures. A series of small, meaningful moments accumulates into a powerful psychological footprint. Ultimately, attraction rooted in emotional memory is sustainable because it is based on how people experience themselves in your presence. When you contribute to feelings of confidence, comfort, and appreciation, you become linked to those internal states, and people naturally revisit the sources of feelings that enhance their well-being. That is why emotional impact, not flashy behavior, is what keeps someone present in another person's mind. Genuine appreciation has a powerful psychological effect because it speaks directly to a basic human need, the need to feel seen and valued. In everyday life, many people move through their routines without receiving meaningful acknowledgement. Conversations can become transactional, focused on tasks and surface-level exchanges rather than recognition of personal effort or character. When someone expresses sincere appreciation, it interrupts that pattern. It signals that you are paying attention not just to what a person does, but to who they are. That distinction is important because it transforms an ordinary interaction into a memorable emotional experience. Appreciation works best when it is specific and grounded in reality. General praise can feel pleasant, but it often fades quickly because it lacks substance. When appreciation highlights a particular quality, action, or effort, it demonstrates attentiveness. This attentiveness communicates respect. The person receiving the appreciation recognizes that you noticed something meaningful about them, and that recognition strengthens their sense of being understood. From a psychological standpoint, being understood contributes to a stable sense of self-worth. When someone connects you with that feeling, your presence becomes associated with emotional reinforcement. There is also a neurological component to appreciation. Positive social feedback activates reward pathways in the brain that are linked to motivation and memory. When appreciation is expressed authentically, it can trigger a release of neurotransmitters associated with pleasure and social bonding. This biochemical response helps encode the interaction more strongly in memory. As a result, the person is more likely to recall the moment and the individual connected to it. Over time, repeated experiences of genuine appreciation can create a consistent emotional association that deepens interpersonal bonds. Another key element of appreciation is that it reduces emotional distance. Many people carry subtle insecurities about whether their efforts matter or whether they are being judged. Sincere appreciation counters those uncertainties by offering reassurance. It creates a moment of emotional clarity in which the person feels affirmed rather than evaluated. This shift lowers defensiveness and increases openness. When people feel safe from judgment, they are more willing to share their thoughts and experiences. That openness enriches the interaction and contributes to a stronger sense of connection. Genuine appreciation also reflects emotional intelligence. It requires awareness of another person's perspective and the ability to articulate recognition in a respectful way. When someone demonstrates this skill, it suggests maturity and empathy. These qualities are inherently attractive because they indicate the capacity for healthy communication. People tend to think about interactions where they felt emotionally supported and respected. Appreciation becomes a marker of that support, reinforcing the impression that the relationship is a positive space. It is important to distinguish appreciation from flattery. Flattery often aims to influence or impress, and it can feel exaggerated or disconnected from reality. Most people are sensitive to this difference, even if they cannot immediately explain it. When appreciation is used as a tactic rather than a genuine expression, it may create skepticism instead of warmth. Authentic appreciation, by contrast, is grounded in honest observation. It does not overstate or manipulate. It simply acknowledges value where value exists. This honesty strengthens trust, which is essential for any lasting connection. Consistency also plays a significant role. A single appreciative comment can brighten a moment, but a pattern of genuine recognition builds a lasting impression. When appreciation is woven naturally into interactions, it reinforces the idea that you are attentive and considerate. Over time, this consistency becomes part of how the other person perceives you. They begin to associate your presence with encouragement and validation. That association encourages them to mentally revisit conversations and anticipate future interactions. In practical terms, expressing appreciation involves slowing down enough to notice details. It means recognizing effort, character, or intention, and communicating that recognition clearly. Even small acknowledgments can carry substantial emotional weight when they are sincere. These moments accumulate, shaping how people feel about themselves when they are around you. Ultimately, genuine appreciation makes people feel valued because it affirms their significance in a direct and personal way. When someone experiences that affirmation, it leaves an emotional imprint that is difficult to ignore. They remember not just the words, but the feeling of being recognized. And because that feeling contributes positively to their sense of self, they naturally associate it with the person who expressed it, making the interaction both meaningful and memorable. Expressing appreciation through the simple phrase, "I appreciate you," carries a unique psychological weight because it shifts attention from performance to personhood. Many compliments in everyday conversation focus on outcomes, achievements, appearances, or specific successes. While those forms of praise can be encouraging, they often remain tied to conditions. Saying, "I appreciate you," moves beyond conditional approval and communicates value directed at the individual as a whole. That distinction can create a deeper emotional impact because it suggests acceptance that is not limited to a single action. When someone hears, "I appreciate you," the message they receive is that their presence matters. This sense of mattering is a central component of emotional well-being. Psychologists have long observed that people thrive when they believe they contribute meaningfully to the lives of others. The phrase affirms that contribution in a concise and direct way. It tells the listener that their efforts, personality, or support have been noticed and valued. This recognition strengthens interpersonal bonds because it fosters mutual respect and gratitude. The emotional association created by appreciation is particularly powerful in memory formation. Human memory is selective, and emotionally charged experiences are more likely to be retained. When appreciation is expressed sincerely, it generates a positive emotional response that becomes linked to the person delivering the message. Over time, repeated experiences of appreciation can build a strong emotional narrative around the relationship. The brain begins to categorize interactions with that person as rewarding and affirming, which increases the likelihood of recalling them frequently. Another important aspect of saying, "I appreciate you," is that it promotes emotional reciprocity. Appreciation often inspires appreciation in return. When someone feels valued, they are more inclined to respond with warmth and generosity. This reciprocal exchange reinforces a cycle of positive interaction. Each person becomes more attentive to the other's needs and contributions, strengthening the relational foundation. In this way, a simple phrase can initiate a broader pattern of supportive communication. The authenticity of the expression is crucial. Words carry emotional force when they are aligned with genuine feeling. If appreciation is delivered mechanically or without clear intent, it may fail to resonate. People are adept at detecting inconsistency between language and emotion. Sincere appreciation, however, is communicated not only through words, but also through tone, eye contact, and attentiveness. These nonverbal cues amplify the message and help the listener trust its meaning. When trust is present, the emotional impact of appreciation deepens. Saying, "I appreciate you," also contributes to emotional safety. In many social environments, individuals may feel pressure to perform or to meet expectations. Appreciation reduces that pressure by acknowledging inherent worth rather than conditional success. This acknowledgement creates a space where the listener feels accepted rather than evaluated. Emotional safety encourages openness and honesty, which are essential for meaningful connection. When someone associates you with that sense of safety, your interactions gain lasting significance. From a behavioral perspective, appreciation can reinforce positive actions and attitudes. When people know their efforts are recognized, they are more likely to continue engaging in supportive and constructive behavior. This reinforcement is not about control or manipulation. It is about nurturing an environment where positive qualities are noticed and encouraged. Over time, this dynamic can elevate the overall tone of a relationship, making interactions more collaborative and fulfilling. Consistency further enhances the effect. Occasional expressions of appreciation are beneficial, but regular acknowledgement integrates appreciation into the culture of the relationship. It becomes an expected and valued part of communication. This consistency helps maintain emotional momentum, ensuring that the positive associations linked to appreciation remain active. Each instance contributes to a cumulative impression of reliability and care. In everyday interactions, the phrase can serve as a reminder to pause and reflect on the value others bring into your life. It encourages mindfulness about relationships and the ways people support one another. When spoken thoughtfully, it encapsulates gratitude, respect, and recognition in a single statement. Ultimately, saying, "I appreciate you," builds positive emotional association because it affirms a person's worth in a direct and unconditional way. It links your presence with feelings of validation and gratitude, which the brain is inclined to remember and revisit. Through sincerity and consistency, this simple expression becomes a powerful tool for strengthening connection and creating interactions that linger in memory. The phrase, "Tell me more," is deceptively simple, yet it carries significant psychological influence because it signals a willingness to slow down and truly engage with another person's inner world. In many conversations, people operate on autopilot. They exchange information quickly, interrupt, or redirect the topic back to themselves. When you say, "Tell me more," you interrupt that pattern and create space. That space communicates patience, curiosity, and respect. It tells the other person that their thoughts are not an inconvenience, but something worth exploring in greater depth. Feeling genuinely heard is one of the strongest contributors to emotional connection. When someone is invited to elaborate on their experiences, they experience a sense of validation. Validation does not mean agreement. It means acknowledging that their perspective deserves attention. This acknowledgement reduces the social pressure people often feel to condense or filter their thoughts. As they expand on what they are saying, they become more emotionally invested in the interaction. The conversation shifts from surface-level exchange to meaningful dialogue. Psychologically, being encouraged to share more activates self-reflection. As people explain their ideas in greater detail, they organize their thoughts and emotions in real time. This process can create clarity and relief. When you are the person facilitating that clarity by listening attentively, you become associated with a constructive emotional experience. The brain links your presence with the positive feeling of being understood. That association increases the likelihood that the interaction will stand out in memory. Another important element of Tell Me More is that it demonstrates curiosity without judgment. Curiosity is a powerful social signal. It suggests openness and a desire to learn rather than to evaluate. When people sense judgment, they often become guarded, offering only safe or superficial information. Curiosity, by contrast, encourages openness. It reassures the speaker that their story or opinion will be received with interest rather than criticism. This reassurance fosters trust, which is essential for any deepening connection. The phrase also helps balance conversational dynamics. Many interactions are unintentionally competitive, with participants trying to contribute impressive stories or opinions. Inviting someone to continue shifts the focus away from competition and toward collaboration. The conversation becomes a shared exploration rather than a performance. This collaborative atmosphere reduces anxiety and promotes comfort. When people feel comfortable, they are more likely to express authenticity, which enriches the interaction. Listening effectively after saying, "Tell me more," is just as important as the phrase itself. Active listening involves maintaining attention, observing emotional cues, and responding thoughtfully. Nonverbal signals such as nodding or maintaining appropriate eye contact reinforce the invitation to continue. These behaviors communicate that you are present and engaged. Presence is rare in a world filled with distractions, and its rarity makes it especially impactful. When someone experiences your full attention, they often perceive the interaction as uniquely meaningful. There is also a reinforcing cycle at work. As the speaker feels heard, they may reveal deeper layers of their thoughts or feelings. This gradual deepening creates intimacy in the conversation. Intimacy in this context does not imply romance. It refers to the sense of closeness that arises when people share personal perspectives. Each layer of sharing strengthens the relational bond and adds emotional texture to the memory of the interaction. From a cognitive standpoint, conversations that involve elaboration are more memorable because they contain richer detail. When someone expands on a topic, they create a narrative rather than a brief statement. Narratives are easier for the brain to encode and recall. By encouraging narrative through "Tell me more," you help shape the conversation into a form that is both emotionally and cognitively engaging. Consistency in using this approach builds a reputation for being a thoughtful communicator. Over time, people may come to expect that interactions with you will involve genuine dialogue rather than rushed exchanges. This expectation can make them more eager to engage, knowing they will have the opportunity to express themselves fully. Ultimately, the power of "Tell me more" lies in its ability to transform ordinary conversation into an experience of recognition and exploration. It communicates that another person's inner life is interesting and valuable. When someone repeatedly feels heard and encouraged in your presence, they associate you with understanding and respect. That association creates a lasting impression, making your conversations not only memorable but emotionally significant.